Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School, where every story is an adventure that helps you improve your English skills and explore the world through the power of storytelling. What if the dream you've been chasing, the one that keeps whispering to your soul, is just one step away from becoming your reality? Have you ever noticed how some people seem to glide effortlessly toward their dreams while others, despite their best efforts, remain stuck in the same place? What is the difference between them? Today, we are going to unravel the secret behind chasing dreams. The truth that sometimes the journey is far more important than the destination itself. Let's take a moment to transport ourselves to a place far removed from the noise, chaos, and relentless pace of modern life. Imagine a world where time feels like it slows down, where the rush of daily obligations is replaced by the quiet hum of nature and the simple rhythm of life. Picture this: a tiny, peaceful village tucked away in a hidden valley, surrounded by towering, majestic mountains that seem to touch the very sky. These mountains stand as silent sentinels, guarding the village against the distractions of the outside world, shielding it from the fast-moving currents of the modern age. In this village, life is simple, and the people live close to the land, relying on their traditions and the skills passed down through generations. The air is fresh and crisp, filled with the scent of pine and earth, and the days follow a slow, almost timeless rhythm. The villagers go about their work in harmony with nature, waking with the sun and retiring at dusk. It is a place where everyone knows each other, and the sense of community runs deep. It seems almost like a world that hasn't been touched by the complexities of technology or the frenetic energy of cities. The hustle and bustle of the modern world seem like a distant memory here. But even in such a serene and idyllic setting, there are dreams, big dreams, the kind that can't be confined to the quiet corners of a village. And it is in this peaceful village, far from the world's distractions, that we meet a young woman named Sophia. Sophia's story begins not with wealth or privilege, but with something much more powerful: an unyielding belief in herself and her dreams. Sophia did not come from a family of great means. There were no luxury homes or vast fortunes waiting for her. Her family didn't have the resources to provide her with the best schooling or the finest tools. Unlike many who dream of a better life, she wasn't handed the advantages that would have made her journey smoother. She didn't grow up with an art teacher's encouragement or a private studio filled with every color of paint imaginable. The world outside her village, with its advanced technologies and wealth, might as well have been another universe, far beyond her reach. Yet, despite all the odds stacked against her, there was one thing Sophia possessed in abundance: a fierce, unwavering belief in the power of her dreams. It was a belief that no amount of poverty, no shortage of resources, no lack of formal training could ever take away from her. Sophia didn't see her limitations as barriers. Instead, she saw them as challenges to overcome, as stepping stones on the path to something greater. While others might have resigned themselves to their circumstances, Sophia knew, deep down, that there was something more waiting for her, something beyond the narrow scope of her village. What Sophia understood, even at such a young age, was that dreams aren't always born in places of wealth or privilege. Dreams are born in the hearts of those who dare to imagine a reality that doesn't yet exist. They are nurtured in the quiet moments of reflection, in the long hours of hard work, and in the belief that no matter the obstacles, something greater is possible. Sophia wasn't content to simply accept the limitations around her. Instead, she believed in the possibility of turning her passion into something meaningful, something that could transcend the small world she knew. In the face of adversity, Sophia's belief in her dreams became her guiding star. It was her compass, her source of strength, and it never wavered, even when the path ahead seemed unclear. Her conviction in her dreams wasn't just a fleeting wish or a passing fancy. It was a deep, resolute knowing that she was meant to do something extraordinary, something that would take her beyond the borders of her quiet village and into a future she had yet to fully understand. She was determined to make that dream a reality, even if the world around her told her it was impossible. And it's this belief, this unshakable faith in her own potential, that sets Sophia apart. In a world where many are quick to dismiss their dreams as impractical or unreachable, Sophia's story is a testament to the power of perseverance and the unrelenting pursuit of one's passion. It shows us that no matter where we come from, no matter what resources we have or don't have, our dreams are worth chasing. And that belief, more than anything else, is what propels us forward, even when the odds seem stacked against us. Sophia's journey is about more than just the dream she chases. It's about the strength, resilience, and character she builds along the way. And while her village may have been small, her dreams were anything but. They were grand, they were bold, and they would carry her far beyond the valley she called home. So, let's take a closer look at the journey of Sophia. And through her story, we'll learn just what it takes to chase our own dreams, no matter where we start. From the very moment Sophia could hold a pencil, she knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life. While other children played with toys, ran through the fields, or dreamed of becoming doctors and teachers, Sophia's heart beat to a different rhythm. From a young age, there was one burning, undeniable desire that consumed her every thought. A desire so intense that it colored every moment of her childhood. She wanted to become a painter. But Sophia's dream wasn't just about picking up a brush and creating pretty pictures. No, her vision stretched far beyond the confines of a canvas. She dreamed of something more profound, more meaningful. She wanted to be more than just an artist who painted for the sake of painting. Her goal was to create art that spoke to people on a deep emotional level, art that could stir the soul and make people stop and think. She dreamed of creating works that would inspire people to see the world through a different lens, one that allowed them to feel, to think, to reflect. In a world that often felt cold, unpredictable, and harsh, she envisioned her art as a beacon of light, a symbol of hope and joy. But why, you may ask, would a young girl from a small, quiet village have such grand aspirations? Why dream of inspiring the world when the world seems so distant, so far beyond the reach of her humble beginnings? It wasn't because Sophia was naive or unrealistic. It was because she understood something very powerful, something that many of us fail to see. She knew that art, true art, had the power to transcend boundaries, to break through the walls of language, culture, and distance. She knew that through her paintbrush, she could touch hearts, awaken minds, and make a lasting impact. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about creating something that could make people feel less alone in their struggles, more connected to the beauty of life, and more attuned to the wonders of the world around them. From an early age, Sophia wasn't content to simply replicate what she saw in front of her. She didn't want to paint the same landscapes or portraits that everyone else was painting. Instead, she wanted her art to be something deeper, something that resonated with people on a fundamental level. She dreamt of creating works that could speak to the human experience, paintings that captured not just the outer world, but the inner world of emotions, dreams, and desires. To Sophia, painting was not just a skill to be mastered. It was a language, a form of communication that went beyond words. It was her way of expressing the complexity of her thoughts, her emotions, and her vision of the world. Sophia spent hours, sometimes days, locked away in her room or in the quiet corners of the village, sketching and experimenting with colors. She painted the rolling hills of the valley, the delicate petals of wildflowers, the light that danced across the river at sunset. But her most powerful creations were not just images of nature. They were reflections of the joy, pain, love, and sorrow that she witnessed in the lives of those around her. Her paintings spoke of the resilience of the human spirit, of the quiet moments of beauty that often go unnoticed, and of the hopes that flicker in the hearts of those who dare to dream. Despite her natural talent, Sophia knew that her dream of becoming an artist was not going to be easy. She didn't have the luxury of attending art schools in grand cities or learning from famous mentors. Her village, nestled far from the modern world, didn't have the resources to nurture an aspiring artist. She didn't have the expensive oils or brushes that the masters used. Instead, she worked with what she had: charcoal, old bits of cloth, even the dirt beneath her feet. Each of these humble tools became a part of her process, a testament to her creativity and determination. But what Sophia lacked in materials, she made up for in passion. And that passion was the driving force behind everything she did. Every time she picked up her makeshift tools, she poured her heart into her work. It wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about creating something that would win awards or accolades. It was about creating something that mattered, something that had the potential to move someone, to change their perspective, and to inspire them to see the world differently. Sophia's dream wasn't merely to create art. It was to create a feeling, an experience that would linger in the hearts and minds of those who encountered her work. For Sophia, painting became a form of connection to the world beyond her small village. With each brushstroke, she felt as though she was reaching out to something larger than herself, something infinite. It was as if, through her art, she could touch the hearts of people who had never even seen her face or heard her voice. She believed wholeheartedly that if she could only find a way to share her work with the world, it would speak to people in a language they all understood, a language that transcended the limitations of their daily lives and connected them to the universal truths of human experience. In a world that often seemed uncertain, full of pain and fleeting beauty, Sophia wanted her art to be a reminder of the light that could still shine through the darkness. She wanted to capture the moments of hope, of love, of joy, and even the quiet moments of introspection that people experienced, and show them how precious those moments were. She wanted her paintings to remind people of the beauty that existed all around them, if only they were willing to look closely enough. Her dream wasn't one of fame or fortune. It was something much deeper, a desire to create art that could make a difference, no matter how small. And though her resources were limited, and the path to realizing her dream was uncertain, Sophia knew that with every painting she completed, she was one step closer to making her vision a reality. Sophia's journey, much like the path of many dreamers, was never going to be easy. In the early days of her pursuit, the world around her seemed to conspire against her every step. Born into a humble family with little financial means, Sophia's aspirations to become a renowned painter seemed, to many, like a distant fantasy. Her family, though loving and supportive, simply didn't have the resources to send her to art school or to provide the materials that other aspiring artists often took for granted. There were no vibrant paints or high-quality brushes in Sophia's world, and no canvas big enough to hold her dreams. In fact, her small village, nestled between towering mountains, offered little in the way of artistic opportunity. But despite these overwhelming challenges, Sophia refused to let go of her dream. Where many might have faltered, overwhelmed by the weight of their limitations, she dug in her heels and found creative ways to keep moving forward. Her determination was unwavering, and rather than succumb to the constraints of her situation, Sophia chose to embrace them. If she didn't have canvas, she would use scraps of fabric. If she didn't have oils and brushes, she would use bits of old wood, and even the dirt and stones beneath her feet. These were the humble materials at her disposal. Yet she transformed them into the medium through which her imagination and passion could flow. Every single creation was a testament to Sophia's unbreakable spirit and her refusal to be defeated by circumstance. The lack of resources only fueled her determination, pushing her to think outside the box, to look for beauty in the most unexpected places. She saw opportunity where others saw limitations. An old piece of discarded cloth became the canvas for a delicate portrait. A fallen twig, once destined for the dirt, became the brush that captured the essence of a sunset. Even the earth itself, muddy, uneven, and coarse, became the paint that colored her world. With each stroke of her makeshift brushes, each line of dirt and dust, Sophia poured not just her artistic talent, but her heart and soul into her work. There was something profoundly beautiful in the way Sophia approached her art. It was as if, in each stroke, she was defying the very forces that try to hold her back. The rawness of her materials, simple, humble, even imperfect, mirrored the rawness of her dream. It was a reminder that sometimes it's not the tools we have that define us, but what we choose to do with them. Sophia's art was not about the perfection of her materials, but about the perfection of her passion and belief in her vision. Each painting she created, each piece she brought into existence, was a powerful declaration. I will not stop. I will not be silenced by the limitations of my circumstances. Despite her resourcefulness, the weight of Sophia's reality was never far from her mind. She saw other artists in the world, those with access to fine art schools, expensive brushes, and rich, vibrant paints. They had everything she didn't, yet somehow they weren't as driven as she was. The absence of luxury in her life only made her dreams more precious, more meaningful. Each time she painted with those scraps, those bits of what others might deem useless materials, Sophia felt the thrill of possibility. She wasn't just painting, she was rewriting her story. With every brushstroke, every image, she built a bridge from where she was to where she wanted to be, a bridge that could take her beyond the small, quiet village she had always known. But it wasn't just about the act of painting for Sophia. It was about what painting represented. Every time she dipped her hand into the dirt or used a worn-out fabric as her canvas, she was also painting a picture of her own resilience. Each piece of art was a symbol of her refusal to settle, her unyielding belief that something greater awaited her. She wasn't painting simply to fill the time. She was painting to fill the void of limitations that society and circumstance had placed on her. She was painting to show the world that even in the darkest of times, beauty could emerge, and even in the harshest of realities, dreams could be built from nothing. In the face of adversity, Sophia never wavered. Instead of allowing the lack of resources to break her, she used it as fuel to push even harder toward her goals. She understood something profound, that it's not the materials that make the artist, but the heart behind the art. Sophia wasn't painting because she had to. She was painting because she had a message to share, a story to tell, and a dream to realize. She knew, deep in her bones, that something much bigger awaited her, something far beyond the borders of her small village, something that stretched out into the wider world. Her dream wasn't confined to the walls of her room or the boundaries of her village. It was meant to reach beyond, to connect with others, to speak to people who hadn't even met her. She could already see it. Her paintings hanging in galleries, her work reaching hearts across the globe, igniting a spark in others to follow their own dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. In those quiet, solitary moments when she painted with what she had, Sophia wasn't just creating art. She was creating her future. Every brushstroke, every stroke of determination was a step toward the dream that, though distant, was inching closer with every day. Even though the road ahead was filled with uncertainty, Sophia's resolve never wavered. She had come to understand that chasing dreams wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment or the ideal circumstances. It was about working with what you have, wherever you are, and trusting that if you keep moving forward, the world will eventually meet you halfway. One crisp, quiet morning, Sophia wandered through the narrow, winding streets of her village, her sketchbook tucked safely under her arm as always. The path she walked was familiar to her, one she had taken countless times before, the cobblestones worn smooth from years of footsteps, the houses standing like quiet witnesses to the stories unfolding in the lives of the people who lived there. The village itself was as tranquil as it was secluded, tucked away between towering mountains, where the outside world seemed like a distant dream. Sophia had walked these streets so often that they had become a part of her, just like the art she poured herself into day after day. As she moved through the village, Sophia's mind wasn't on the path beneath her feet or the chatter of the few villagers she passed by. Instead, she was immersed in the world of her art, the images and ideas swirling in her mind, fighting for their place on the page of her sketchbook. Her gaze was far away, lost in the endless possibilities of the strokes and colors that would one day grace her canvases. Yet, even in her own creative reverie, she felt a pair of eyes watching her, as if the world around her had momentarily shifted and she was being observed from afar. It wasn't unusual for the villagers to notice her as she walked through the streets, her artistic soul always visible in the way she carried herself. Her clothes often stained with paint, her hands smudged with the remnants of her latest creation. But this time it felt different. There was something intentional about the gaze she felt upon her, something purposeful. It was a feeling of being seen, truly seen, in a way that no one else had done before. As Sophia approached a small, quiet corner of the village, where a few scattered cottages stood, she caught sight of an elderly man standing by the entrance of one of the homes. His white hair, neatly combed, caught the light of the afternoon sun, and his weathered face held the kind of wisdom that only time could bestow. He was no stranger to the village, But Sophia had never seen him before, not in her walks or in her quiet moments of reflection. He stood there, watching her, his eyes soft and knowing, as if he had been waiting for this very moment. Without saying a word, he simply smiled, a gentle, knowing smile that seemed to speak volumes. Sophia, a little startled by the sudden interaction, stopped in her tracks, her heart racing a little faster at the unexpected encounter. She had become so used to working in solitude, immersed in the quiet, simple rhythms of her daily life, that the thought of anyone truly noticing her seemed almost foreign. She blinked a few times, taking in the old man's smile before lowering her sketchbook slightly, unsure of what would come next. The elderly man didn't waste any time. He tilted his head slightly, the corners of his mouth lifting in that same kind, understanding smile, and asked, "Why do you spend so much of your time creating art, when it seems the world has so little to offer you?" His words hung in the air between them, a question that carried the weight of curiosity, yet also a kind of quiet wisdom. Sophia paused, her heart still beating a little faster, not because she was afraid, but because something in his voice seemed to reach deep into her. He wasn't asking out of judgment or pity. He was asking with genuine interest, as though he already knew part of the answer, but wanted her to discover it for herself. At first, Sophia hesitated, unsure how to respond. No one had ever asked her such a personal question about her art, about why she continued to create when everything seemed stacked against her. She had always been driven by an internal fire, an unexplainable force that had pushed her forward despite the limitations of her surroundings. But this man's question made her realize that perhaps, just maybe, she had never fully understood why she kept going. It wasn't as simple as wanting to become a famous painter or to sell her work in galleries. There had to be more to it than that, something deeper that she hadn't quite grasped. After a brief moment of silence, Sophia found her voice, though it came out softer than she had intended. "I paint because I have to. It's the only way I know how to make sense of everything, of the world, of myself. I've tried to let go of it, to walk away, but every time I do, I find myself coming back. No matter what happens, painting is the one thing that makes me feel alive. It's the one thing I can do that gives me purpose. I don't have the resources and I don't have the training, but my dream is bigger than all of that. My dream, it feels like it's calling me, and I can't ignore it. It's the one thing I believe in fully." The elderly man listened intently, nodding slowly as she spoke. There was no judgment in his eyes, only an understanding that seemed to transcend the limitations of words. When she finished, he waited for a moment, allowing the weight of her words to settle between them. Then, with the same kind smile, he spoke again, his voice soft but filled with conviction. "You're right, he said. "You may not have everything the world tells you you need, but you have something much more important: belief. And that belief will take you places that resources and training never will. But let me share something with you. Dreams are not just about where you want to go, they are about who you become in the process of chasing them. Every stroke you make, every piece of art you create, is not just a step towards your dream, but a step towards becoming the person you're meant to be." His words resonated with Sophia, like a quiet truth that had always been there, but she had never quite heard. It was as if the old man had just given her the key to understanding the very heart of her journey, the understanding that the true value of her art, her pursuit of painting, wasn't just in the final destination, but in the growth she experienced along the way. It was the learning, the transformation, the perseverance that would shape her, no matter what the world had to offer. Sophia stood there, feeling a sense of clarity wash over her. She had always known, deep down, that her dreams were meant for something more than herself, but now she understood that the journey itself, the challenges, the obstacles, the moments of doubt, was as important, if not more so, than the dream itself. It was all part of a larger story, one that was unfolding with each step she took. With a grateful smile, she thanked the old man, who simply nodded, his eyes gleaming with a silent understanding of the impact his words had made. And as Sophia continued on her way, her sketchbook once again in hand, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just painting to reach a destination. She was painting to become the person she was always meant to be. Sophia stopped in her tracks, the question hanging in the air like a soft but insistent breeze. The elderly man stood before her, his weathered face open with curiosity, his eyes gleaming with a knowing warmth that somehow made her feel like he could see right through to her soul. His question had been simple, yet it cut to the heart of something that had been pulsing within her for as long as she could remember. Sophia could feel the weight of his words, not as an intrusion, but as an invitation to share the deepest part of herself, the part she had always kept locked away in the silence of her heart. She looked up at him, her gaze steady yet thoughtful, her mind working furiously to find the right words. The question wasn't one that could be answered lightly. It wasn't something that could be explained in a single breath. Yet somehow, in this quiet moment with this stranger who seemed to understand her in a way no one else had, she felt ready to speak the truth that had been buried deep inside her for so long. She knew exactly what he was asking, not just in the literal sense, but in the way his question seemed to probe the very core of her existence. It wasn't just about why she painted, or why she spent so much of her time pursuing a dream that seemed so far out of reach. No, his question was about the fire that burned within her, the unrelenting desire to create, to bring her vision of the world to life on canvas, even when the world around her seemed indifferent or even hostile to her dreams. Sophia felt her heart flutter in her chest, a soft, steady rhythm that echoed the pulse of her passion. She had been asked questions before about her art, her purpose, but none had touched her the way this one did. She took a slow, deep breath, drawing in the air as if it could give her the strength to speak the words that had been building inside her for years. It was time to let them out. She turned her gaze to the horizon, her eyes momentarily lost in the vast expanse of the mountains that surrounded her village. They were beautiful, yes, but they were also so very distant, just like the dreams that she chased. She had always been told that dreams had their place in the hearts of children, that they were for the young and naive. But Sophia had never believed that. She knew in her bones that dreams weren't just for the hopeful and innocent. They were for the brave, the resilient, the ones who dared to push forward in the face of impossible odds. And so, with a soft but unwavering voice, she answered the man's question, as if she had been rehearsing these words in her mind for years, waiting for the right moment to share them with someone who would understand. Because my dreams are bigger than the circumstances that surround me, she said, each word coming from a place of quiet conviction. Her voice didn't tremble or waver. There was no doubt in her heart as she spoke. This wasn't just a statement. It was the very foundation of her being, the thing that drove her to paint, to create, to keep going when the world around her seemed to offer nothing but obstacles. Sophia felt a sense of power as she spoke, as though these words, once buried deep within her, were finally being freed into the world, and with them, a new kind of strength. She could see the old man's eyes soften as he listened, his gaze still as steady as before. He was waiting for her to continue, to reveal more of what was in her heart, and Sophia knew she wasn't finished yet. My art, she continued, her voice gaining a little more confidence. It's not just about colors on a canvas or strokes of a brush. It's about telling a story that hasn't been told yet, about showing the world something they've never seen. I believe my art will take me places that no one else can see just yet. The words felt right as they left her lips, as though they had been waiting for this precise moment to come to life. She believed it with everything inside her. Her art was her gateway, her bridge to a world beyond her village, beyond the constraints of her current reality. It wasn't just about escaping. It was about transforming both herself and the world around her. Her paintings weren't just images. They were her way of connecting to something greater, something more expansive than the small, quiet life she lived. The elderly man stood there, silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Sophia felt a flicker of nervousness, unsure of what his response would be. Would he mock her for her optimism? Would he tell her to be more practical, to focus on what was in front of her rather than chase elusive dreams? But instead, the old man smiled, his eyes gleaming with something like admiration, as if her words had touched him in ways he hadn't expected. He didn't say anything at first. He simply nodded, his expression serene and approving. "You're right, child," he finally said, his voice deep and rich with the kind of wisdom that could only come from a lifetime of experience. The world may seem small around you, but your dreams have the power to make it vast. Dreams aren't bound by geography or circumstance. They are bound only by your belief in them. Sophia stood still, her heart swelling at his words. The truth of what he said echoed deep within her, like a quiet bell ringing through the chambers of her soul. She had always known that her dreams were bigger than the life she had in front of her, but hearing it from someone else, someone who had lived long enough to understand the power of dreams, made her believe in them even more. With a final nod of acknowledgement, the elderly man turned to leave, his movements slow but purposeful. "Follow your heart, Sophia," he said, his voice now carrying a hint of finality. "The world is waiting for you to show it what it's been missing." As Sophia watched him disappear down the winding street, she felt a profound shift within herself. For the first time in a long while, she truly understood that her dreams were not just her own. They were a gift to the world. They were meant to be shared, to be seen, and to be felt by others. And though the journey would be long, and the obstacles many, Sophia now knew that her art would indeed take her to places no one else could see, because those places existed in the deepest corners of her soul, waiting to be brought to life. And she would be the one to do it. The old man smiled knowingly, his eyes twinkling with understanding. "You're right," he said softly. "Dreams have a way of taking us to places we never imagined, sometimes in the most unexpected ways. But remember this, young artist. Dreams are not just about where you're headed. They're about who you become in the process of chasing them." These words stuck with Sophia. For the first time, she understood something crucial. Dreams are not simply about the destination, but about the transformation that happens within us as we chase them. As Sophia continued to paint, she became more than just a painter. With each brushstroke, she honed not only her skill, but her character. Her art began to evolve, and so did she. The process of chasing her dream taught her resilience, patience, and a courage she didn't know she had. Now, let's pause and reflect. How often do we think that chasing our dreams is about reaching the end goal as quickly as possible? We imagine a straight path from point A to point B, but in reality, the journey is never so simple. Chasing your dreams involves embracing the highs and lows, the failures and setbacks, the times when it feels like you're moving in circles. Every challenge is a lesson. Every mistake is a stepping stone. And most importantly, every single moment on that path shapes you into the person you need to be to fulfill your dream. So how do we truly chase our dreams? It starts with belief. You have to believe wholeheartedly that your dream is worth pursuing, that you are capable of achieving it, no matter where you start. But belief alone isn't enough. You need to act. Take that first step, no matter how small or insignificant it might feel. The first brushstroke might be imperfect, but it's the beginning of something great. The key is consistency. Every day, devote time to your dream. Even if it's just a little, that daily effort will build momentum. And momentum, as we know, is what eventually turns dreams into reality. The next step is embracing failure. Now, that may sound counterintuitive, but stay with me. Sophia faced rejection after rejection. Her work was often criticized, and she wondered if she would ever make it. But she learned something invaluable. Failure is not the end, it's feedback. Each rejection, each setback taught her something new. So, when you face failure, don't let it stop you. Instead, see it as an opportunity to refine your approach, improve your skills, and grow stronger. Another key element of chasing your dreams is surrounding yourself with the right people. As Sophia continued her journey, she eventually found a mentor, a painter from a neighboring town who recognized her talent and encouraged her when she was on the brink of giving up. Your dream might be unique, but that doesn't mean you have to walk the path alone. Seek out people who inspire you, challenge you, and believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. And lastly, celebrate every small victory. When Sophia's work was finally displayed in a local gallery, it wasn't the fame that mattered most. It was the sense of pride and accomplishment that came from seeing how far she had come. Celebrate every step forward, no matter how small. Each victory brings you one step closer to your dream. Sophia's story is a powerful reminder that chasing your dreams is not just about reaching the finish line. It's about the person you become along the way. The road may be long, filled with obstacles and challenges. But if you remain committed, take action, learn from failure, surround yourself with the right people, and celebrate your progress, your dreams will eventually become your reality. So, what are you waiting for? It's time to chase your dreams, no matter how far away they may seem. Every small step you take today is one step closer to where you're meant to be. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.